Hello. Welcome back to another section of There by Tommy Orange. If you're just joining us for the first time, hi, I'm Julie. I read books over here, and we started this one just a few sections back, so you can get caught up by going back a few videos. I'm coming to you from the nighttime. I'm already in my jammies and I've got a tea nearby, so wherever you are, get comfy cozy, and we are gonna jump in. If you like this book, give me a thumb, helps me know what kind of books you like to read, and you can subscribe if you want to catch the rest of it. But anyway, we are continuing on in the chapter from Calvin Johnson on page 92, where there is a page break. So that's where we will begin. We wound up in the kitchen of someone's house. The walls were all bright yellow. Muffled mariachi music boomed through the room from the backyard. Charles gestured for me to sit down at a table. I had to slide behind, like a booth, with Carlos to my left, tapping his fingers to some other beat he was hearing in his own head. Charles was across from me, staring straight at me. You know where we're at? I'm guessing somewhere Octavio might end up being at, but I don't know why the fuck you would think that's a good idea. Charles laughed a fake laugh. You remember the time we went over to Diamond Park and we went through that long sewer tube? We ran through it, and at some point there was no light, just the sound of the rushing water, and we didn't know where the fuck it came from or where it was going. We had to jump over it. You remember, we heard a voice. Then you thought someone grabbed your leg and you squealed like a little fucking baby pig and you almost fell in, but I pulled you back and we jumped and ran out of there together, Charles said, sliding a bottle of tequila on the table in front of him and back and forth. I'm trying to get you into the position of being grabbed, Charles said, and stopped sliding the bottle. He gripped it, held it still. When Octavio sees your face, it's going to be like that. And I'm going to pull you back, save you from being taken down the long tube to nowhere. You ain't getting out of this shit alone, you feel me? Carlos put his arm around me, and I tried to shrug it off. Charles leaned back and let his big arms fall to his sides. Right on cue, Octavio walked into the kitchen. His eyes turned into bullets. He shot them around the room. What the fuck is this, Carlos? That's what Octavio called Charles and Carlos because they were always together and they look alike. It was a way to put them in their place, make them know they were both equally less important to him than him. Octavio, who stood 6'6", with a barrel chest and muscular arms you could see even through the triple extra large black t-shirt he always wore. Octavio, Charles said, take it easy. I'm just trying to remind him what's up. Don't trip, he's gonna pay. He's my little brother, Octavio. No disrespect, man, I just want him to know. Know what? No disrespect? What is that, Carlos? I don't think you even know. Octavio pulled an all-white magnum from the front of his belt and pointed it at my face while looking at Charles. What the fuck kind of games you think we're playing here? Octavio said, looking at Charles, but talking to me. You take, then you owe. You don't pay and you lose shit. I don't give a fuck how you lost it, it's gone. Then you disappear and show up in my uncle's fucking kitchen. You're fucking crazy, Carlos. I came here to have a good time. But because you got my shit stolen and because your brother smoked all his shit up, you both owe me. And I got into some shit with who I get the shit from, and now I owe, and we're all fucked if we don't make some real money real soon. Octavio kept the gun pointed at me. Smoked all his shit up? What the fuck? I stared down the barrel of the gun. I went into it, straight into the tunnel of it. I saw the way it had to go down. Octavio was going to turn around to the countertop behind him to get a drink. Then Charles would shoot up out of his chair and put Octavio in a chokehold from behind. The gun would drop to the ground in the struggle, and Charles, he'd hold him there, turn them both around, and trying to suddenly be a good big brother, he'd yell at me, "Get the fuck out of here!" But I wouldn't leave. I know just what to do. I'd grab the gun on the floor, I'd pick up the gun and point it at Octavio's head and look at Charles. "Give me the gun, Calvin. Get the fuck out of here," Charles would say. "I'm not leaving," I'd tell him. "Shoot him then," Charles would say. Then me and Octavio would catch eyes. I'd noticed for the first time that Octavio's eyes were green. I'd look into those eyes so long it'd make Octavio mad, and he'd slam Charles back into the cupboards. Then I'd tell them all how they're gonna make Octavio drink, and that he was gonna drink until he couldn't stand up anymore. I'd tell them that if they made him drink enough, he wouldn't remember shit. We'd make the blackout so bad it would go forward and backward in time, swallow the night. My eyes were closed. For a second I wondered if I might still be in the car, dreaming the scene from the back seat. It was a night like so many others I'd had before. Maybe I'd wake up in the back seat, we'd go home, and I'd get back to the life I was trying to make that didn't include any of this shit. I opened my eyes. Octavio was still holding the gun. But he was laughing. Charles started to laugh too. Octavio set the gun on the table and they hugged. The two of them, Charles and Octavio. Then Carlos got up and shook hands with Octavio. "These are the pieces you had made?" Charles said to Octavio, picking up the white gun. "Nah, this one's special. You remember David, Manny's little brother? He made them in his fucking basement. The rest just look like mines. Go on, tell him," Octavio said to Charles, looking at me. You remember when I told you about that lady powwow you said you wanted to go to because there was that big one coming up at the Oakland Coliseum, and you were on the powwow committee for work? You remember that?" Charles said. "Yeah," I said. "You remember what else you told me?" "No," I said. "About the money," Charles said. "Money?" I said. "You said there would be something like $50,000 in cash prizes there that day," Charles said, "and how easy it would be to steal." "I was fucking joking, Charles. You think I would fucking rob the people I work with and then think I could get away with it? It was a fucking joke." "That's funny," Octavio said. Charles lifted his head toward Octavio like, "What's up?" "That anyone would think you would rob the people you work with and think you could get away with it. That's just funny to me," Octavio said. "This is how we make it right," Charles said. "You'll get a cut too. Then we'll be good, right, Octavio?" Octavio nodded his head. Then he picked up the tequila bottle. "Let's drink," he said. So we drank. We went through half the bottle, shot after shot. Before the last shot, there was a pause, and Octavio looked up at me, then lifted his shot glass toward me and gestured for me to get up. We took the shot, just me and him. Then he gave me a hug I forgot to return. While he hugged me, I saw Charles look at Carlos like he didn't know what was happening, or didn't like what was happening. After Octavio let me go, he turned around and got another bottle of tequila from the top cupboard. Then he sort of laughed at who knows what and stumbled across, then left the kitchen. Charles lifted his head up to me like, "Let's go." On the way to the car, we saw a kid on his bike watching everyone from far off. I could tell Charles was almost going to say something to him. Then Carlos tried to punk him by acting like he was going to hit him. The kid didn't flinch, just kept staring at the house. His eyes were hella droopy, but not like he was high or drunk. I thought about Sloth from the Goonies. And then I thought about a movie I saw one Saturday morning when I was like 5 or 6. It was about a kid who woke up blind one day. Before, I'd never thought about the idea that you could just wake up to some terrible shit, some fucked up shit, shift in what you thought life was. And that's what it felt like then. Taking those shots, Octavio's embrace, agreeing to some doomed-ass plan. I wanted to say something to the kid on his bike. I don't know why. There was nothing to say. We got in the car and rode home in silence, the low sound of the engine and road leading us toward some shit we'd never make our way back from. That's the end of Calvin Johnson's chapter. Now we've got Jackie Redfeather going to our cast of characters. We met her briefly before. She is the half-sister of Opal. a substance abuse counselor who is herself newly sober, gave a child up for adoption in her youth, raised another daughter, Jamie, who passed away. Now has 3 grandsons for whom Opal is caring. All right, page 98, Jackie Redfeather. Jackie Redfeather flew to Phoenix from Albuquerque the evening before the conference started, landing after the hour-long flight in a smog-filled gradient between green and pink. When the plane slowed to a roll, she shut the window shade and stared at the back of the seat in front of her. Keeping them from harm. That was this year's conference theme. She guessed they meant self-harm, but was the problem really suicide itself? She'd recently read an article that called the number of suicides in Native communities staggering. For how many years there had been federally funded programs trying to prevent suicide with billboards and hotlines, it was no wonder it was getting worse. You can't sell life is okay when it's not. This was yet another Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration conference her position as substance abuse counselor was grant required to attend. The woman who checked her in at the hotel had Florencia on her name tag. She smelled like beer, cigarettes, and perfume. That she was drinking on the job, or that she'd come to work drunk, made Jackie like her. Jackie was 10 days sober. Florencia complimented Jackie's hair, which she'd recently dyed black to hide the gray and cut into a bob. Jackie had never known what to do with a compliment. So red, she said of the poinsettias behind Florencia, which Jackie didn't even like because of how even the real ones look fake. We call them flores de Nochebuena, flowers of the Holy Night, because they bloom around Christmas. But it's March, Jackie said to her. I think they're the most beautiful flowers, Florencia said. Jackie's latest relapse had not left burn holes in her life. She didn't lose her job and she hadn't wrecked her car. She was sober again, and 10 days is the same as a year when you want to drink all the time. Florencia told Jackie, who was noticeably sweating, that the pool was open until 10. The sun had gone down, but it was still 90 degrees. On the way to her room, Jackie saw that no one was in the pool. Long after Jackie's mom had left her dad for good, during one of the many times her mom had left her sister's dad, when Opal was just a baby and Jackie was 6, they'd stayed in a hotel near the Oakland airport. Their mom told them stories about moving away for good, about getting back home to Oklahoma. But home for Jackie and her sister was a locked station wagon in an empty parking lot. Home was a long ride on a bus. Home was the 3 of them anywhere safe for the night. And that night in the hotel, with the possibility of taking a trip, of getting away from the life her mom had been running down with her daughters in tow, that night was one of the best nights of Jackie's life. Her mom had fallen asleep. Earlier, she'd seen the pool, a bright blue glowing rectangle on the way to their room. It was cold out, but she'd seen a sign that read, heated pool. Jackie watched TV and waited for her mom to fall asleep with Opal. Then she snuck down to the pool. There was no one around. Jackie took her shoes and socks off and dipped a toe in, then looked back up at the door of their room. She looked at all the doors and windows of the rooms that faced the pool. The night air was cool, but didn't move. With all but her shoes and socks on, she walked down the pool stairs. It was her first time in a pool. She didn't know how to swim. Mostly, she just wanted to be in the water, to go under and open her eyes, look at her hands, watch the bubbles rise in that bluest light. In her room, she threw her bags down, took off her shoes, and laid on the bed. She turned the TV on, muted it, then rolled onto her back and stared at the ceiling for a while, appreciating the blank white coolness of the room. She thought about Opal, the boys, what they might be doing. Over the past few months, after years of silence, they'd been texting. Opal took care of Jackie's 3 grandsons, whom she never even met. What are you doing? Jackie texted Opal. She put her phone on the bed and went to her suitcase to get a swimsuit. It was a black and white striped one-piece. She put it on in front of the mirror. Scars and tattoos spanned and bent around her neck, stomach, arms, and ankles. There were feather tattoos on her forearms, one for her mom and one for her sister, and stars on the back of her hands. Those were just stars. The webs she had on the top of her feet had hurt the worst. Jackie walked to the window to see if the pool was still empty. Her phone vibrated on the bed. Orville found spider legs in his leg, the text said. WTF? Jackie texted back. But the sentence did not really take. What could that even mean? She would look this up on her phone later. Spider legs found in leg. But find nothing. Yeah, I don't know. The boys think it means something NDN. Jackie smiled. She'd never seen Indian abbreviated as NDN before. Maybe he'll get powers like Spider-Man, Jackie texted. Anything like that ever happened to you? From Opal. What? No, I'm gonna go for a swim. Jackie kneeled in front of the mini fridge. In her head, she heard her mom say, "The spider's web is a home and a trap." And even though she never really knew what her mom meant by it, she'd been making it make sense over the years, giving it more meaning than her mom probably ever intended. In this case, Jackie was the spider, and the mini fridge was the web. Home was to drink was the trap. Or something like that. The point was, do not open the fridge. And she didn't. Jackie stood at the pool's edge, watching the light on the water wobble and shimmer. Her arms crossed over her stomach looked green and cracked. She inched down the pool stairs, then pushed lightly off and swam underwater all the way across and back. She came back up for air, watched the surface of the water move for a while, then went back under and watched the bubbles gather, rise, and disappear. While she smoked a cigarette by the pool, she thought about the taxi from the airport and the liquor store she'd seen just a block away from the hotel. She could walk down there. What she really wanted was that cigarette after 6 beers. She wanted sleep to come easy like it could when she drank. On the way back to her room, she got a Pepsi and trail mix from the vending machine. On her bed, she flipped through channels, landing here and there, changing the channel at every commercial break, devouring the trail mix and Pepsi, and only then, her appetite awakened by the trail mix, did she realize that she hadn't eaten dinner. She stayed awake with her eyes closed in bed for an hour, but then put a pillow over her face and fell asleep. When she woke up at 4 a.m, she didn't know what was on top of her face. She threw the pillow across the room, then got up and peed, and spent the next 2 hours trying to convince herself she was asleep, or sometimes actually sleeping, but having the dream of not being able to sleep. Jackie found a seat in the back of the main ballroom. There was an old Indian guy in a baseball cap who had one hand up like he was praying, while the other flicked water out of a water bottle at the crowd. She'd never seen anything like it before. Jackie's eyes wandered the room. She studied the native decor. The room was big, with high ceilings and massive chandeliers, each one of which consisted of a grouping of 8 flame-shaped light bulbs surrounded by a giant band of corrugated metal with cutouts of tribal patterns, creating tribal patterned shadows on the walls. Multiple cocopelis, zigzag lines, and spirals, all up there at the top of the room, where the paint was the brownish red of dried blood. The carpets were crowded with winding lines and variegated geometric shapes, like every casino or movie theater carpet. She looked around at the crowd. There were probably 200 or so people, all of them sitting at circular tables with glasses of water and little paper plates stacked with fruit and danishes. Jackie recognized the conference types. Most of them were old Indian women. Next came old white women, then old Indian men. There were no young people to be seen. Everyone she saw seemed either too serious or not serious enough. These were career people, more driven by concern about keeping their jobs, about the funders and grant requirements, than by the need to help Indian families. Jackie was no different. She knew it and hated this fact. The first speaker, a man who looked like he might be more comfortable on a street corner than at a conference, approached the podium. You didn't often see men like him standing on a stage. He wore Jordans and an Adidas tracksuit. He had an unrecognizable faded tattoo above his left ear that went up to the crown of his bald head. It could have been cracks or webs or a half crown of thorns. Every few seconds he opened his mouth in an oval shape and wiped the outside of it with his thumb and forefinger, as if there was excess saliva there, or as if, in the wiping, he was assuring himself. He wouldn't spit and look sloppy. He stepped up to the mic. He spent a long, uncomfortable minute surveying the crowd. I see a lot of Indian people out there. That makes me feel good. About 20 years ago, I went to a conference like this, and it was just a sea of white faces. I came as a youth. It was my first time on a plane, and the first time I was away from Phoenix for more than a few days. I'd been forced into a program as part of a plea bargain I took to stay out of juvie. That program ended up being featured at a conference in D.C., a national highlight. They chose me and a few other youth not based on our leadership skills or because of our commitment to the cause or because of our participation, but because we were the most at risk. Of course, all we had to do was sit on the stage, listen to youth success stories, and to our youth services staff talk about how great our programming was. But while I was on that trip, my little brother, Harold, found a gun I kept in my closet. He shot himself between the eyes with that gun. He was 14, the guy said, and coughed off mic. Jackie shifted in her chair. What I'm here to talk about is how our whole approach since day one has been like this. Kids are jumping out of the windows of burning buildings, falling to their deaths, and we think the problem is that they're jumping. This is what we've done. We've tried to find ways to get them to stop jumping. Convince them that burning alive is better than leaving when the shit gets too hot for them to take. We've boarded up windows and made better nets to catch them. Found more convincing ways to tell them not to jump. They're making the decision that it's better to be dead and gone than to be alive in what we have here. This life. The one we made for them, the one they've inherited. And we're either involved and have a hand in each one of their deaths, just like I did with my brother, or we're absent, which is still involvement, just like silence is not just silence, but is not speaking up. I'm in suicide prevention now. I've had 15 relatives commit suicide over the course of my life, not counting my brother. I had one community I was working with recently in South Dakota tell me they were grieved out. That was after experiencing 17 suicides in their community in just 8 months. But how do we instill in our children the will to live? At these conferences and in the offices, in the emails and at the community events, there has to be an urgency, a do whatever at any cost sort of spirit behind what we do. Or fuck the programs. Maybe we should send the money to the families themselves who need it and know what to do with it, since we all know what that money goes toward. Salaries and conferences like this one. I'm sorry. I get paid out of that shit too, and actually, I'm not sorry. This issue shouldn't be met with politeness or formality. We can't get lost in the career advancements and grant objectives and day-to-day grind as if we have to do what we do. We choose to do what we do. And in that choice comes the community. We are choosing for them all the time. That's what these kids are feeling. They have no control. Guess what kind of control they do have? We need to be about what we're always saying we're about. And if we can't, and we're really just about ourselves, we need to step aside. Let somebody else from the community who really cares, who will really do something, let them come in and help. Fuck all the rest. Jackie was out of the room before the audience even started in its hesitant, obligatory clapping. As she ran, her name badge jangled around her neck, sliced at her chin. When she got to her room, she closed the door with her back and slid down, collapsed, and sobbed against it. She pressed her eyes into her knees, and bursts of purple, black, green, and pink splotches bloomed there behind her eyes, then slowly formed into images, then memories. She saw the big hole first, then her daughter's emaciated body. There were little red and pink holes up and down both her arms. Her skin was white, blue, and yellow with green veins. Jackie was there to identify the body. The body was her daughter's body, had been the little body she carried for just 6 months. She watched the doctors put needles in her arm, then there in the incubator, back when all she'd wanted, in a way she'd never wanted anything before, was for her new baby girl to live. The coroner looked at Jackie, pen and clipboard in hand. She spent a long time staring somewhere between the body and the clipboard, trying not to scream, trying not to scan up to see her daughter's face. The big hole. The shot between the eyes, like a third eye, or an empty third eye socket. The trickster spider, Viho, her mom used to tell her and Opal about. He was always stealing eyes to see better. Viho was the white man who came and made the old world watch with his eyes. Look, see here, the way it's going to be is, first you're going to give me all your land, then your attention, until you forget how to give it, until your eyes are drained and you can't see behind you and there's nothing ahead, and the needle, the bottle, or the pipe is the only thing in sight that makes any sense. In her car, Jackie slammed the bottoms of her fists into the steering wheel until she couldn't anymore. She broke her pinky on the wheel. That was 13 years ago. She'd been sober 6 months then, the longest since she started drinking. But after that, she drove straight to the liquor store, spent the next 6 years stomaching a fifth of whiskey a night. She drove an AC transit bus, the 57 line, in and out of Oakland 6 days a week, drank herself into a manageable oblivion every night, woke up every day to work. One day, she fell asleep at the wheel and crashed her bus into a telephone pole. After a month in residential treatment, she left Oakland. She still doesn't remember how she got to Albuquerque. At some point, she got a job as a receptionist at an Indian health clinic funded by Indian Health Service, then eventually, without ever achieving any significant sobriety, became a certified substance abuse counselor through an online course her work paid for. There, in her hotel room, down against the hotel door, she remembered all the pictures Opal had emailed her over the years of the boys, which she refused to look at. She stood up and walked to her laptop on the desk. In her Gmail account, she searched Opal's name. She opened each email with the paperclip icon. She followed them through the years. Birthdays and first bikes and pictures they'd drawn. There were little video clips of them fighting in the kitchen and sleeping in their bunk beds, all in one room. The three of them crowded around a computer screen, that screen glow on their faces. There was one picture that broke her heart. The three of them lined up in front of Opal. Opal, with her static, sober, stoic stare. She looked at Jackie through all the years and all that they'd been through. Come get them. They're yours, Opal's face said. The youngest one was half smiling, like one of his brothers had just punched him in the arm, but Opal had told them they all better smile for the picture. The middle one looked like he was either pretending or actually was holding up what looked like a gang sign with his fingers across his chest, smiling a big smile. He looked the most like Jackie's daughter, Jamie. The oldest one didn't smile. He looked like Opal. He looked like Jackie and Opal's mom, Vicky. Jackie wanted to go to them. She wanted to drink. She wanted to drink. She needed a meeting. Earlier, she'd seen that the AA meeting for the conference would be on the second floor at 7:30 every night. There were always meetings at conferences, it being a mental health, substance abuse prevention-based conference full of people like her who had gotten into the field because they'd been through it and hoped to find meaning in their careers helping other people not make the same mistakes they had. When she went to wipe sweat from her face with her sleeve, she realized the air conditioner had been turned off. She went to the AC unit, turned the cold air on high. She fell asleep, waiting to cool down. Jackie walked into the room in a hurry, thinking she was late. 3 men sat in a small circle made of 8 folding chairs. Behind them there were snacks that nobody had touched yet. The room was a mess of fluorescent buzzing, a smallish conference room with a whiteboard on the wall in front, off-whitish light which encased them all in its flatness, which made everything feel like it was happening a decade ago on TV. Jackie went to the back table and looked at the food spread. A pot of coffee in a very old-looking auto-drip coffee maker, cheese, crackers, meat, and mini celery sticks fanned out in a circle around various dips. Jackie picked up a single stick of celery, poured herself a cup of coffee, and walked over to join the group. All of them were older native guys with long hair. 2 wore baseball caps, and the one who seemed like he was probably the leader of the group wore a cowboy hat. The guy in the cowboy hat introduced himself to the group as Harvey. Jackie turned her head away, but the face embedded in an orb of fat, the eyes and nose and mouth, they were his. Jackie wondered if Harvey recognized her, because he excused himself, said he had to go to the bathroom. Jackie texted Opal, "Guess who I'm in a meeting with right now?" Opal responded immediately, "Who?" "Harvey, from Alcatraz." "Who?" "Harvey, as in father of the daughter I gave up." "No." "Yes." "You sure?" "Yes." "What you gonna do?" "I don't know." "You don't know?" "He just got back." Opal sent a picture of the boys in their room, all of them lying the same way with headphones on, looking up at the ceiling. This was the first picture she'd sent via text message since Jackie told her not to, that she was only allowed to email pictures of them because of how it could mess with her day. Jackie reverse pinched, then pinched and repeated to see each of their faces. "We'll talk to him after meeting," Jackie texted, then switched her phone to silent and put it away. Harvey sat down without looking at Jackie. With a simple hand gesture, a palm facing up, he pointed to her. Jackie wasn't sure if this not looking at her, plus the trip to the bathroom, meant that he knew. Either way, it was her turn to tell the story or share whatever she felt like, and he would know as soon as she said her name. Jackie rested her elbows on her knees, leaned into the group. "My name is Jackie Redfeather. I don't say I'm an alcoholic thing. I say I don't drink anymore. I used to drink, and now I don't. I currently have 11 days sobriety. I'm grateful to be here and for your time. Thank you all for listening. I appreciate all of you being here." Jackie coughed, her throat suddenly rough. She put a cough drop in her mouth so casually that you could tell she probably ate a lot of cough drops and smoked a lot of cigarettes and never quite beat the cough, but beat it enough while she was sucking on a cough drop and so ate them constantly. The problem that became a drinking problem started for me way before the drinking was even related to it, though it was when I first started drinking. Not that I blame my past or don't accept it. We'd been on Alcatraz, me and my family, back during the occupation in 1970. It all started for me there. This piece of shit kid, Jackie made sure to look right at Harvey after she said this. He squirmed in his chair a little, but otherwise just stared off toward the ground in a listening pose. Maybe he didn't know what he was doing, but then again, maybe he went on to fuck over a whole line of women, used force to stretch a no into a yes. Assholes like him, I know now, are a dime a dozen, but I suspect from what little time I spent with him on that island that he went on to do it again and again. After my mom died, we lived in a house with a stranger, a distant relative, which I'm grateful for. We had food on the table, a roof over our heads, but I gave up a daughter to adoption at that time. The girl I birthed came from that island, from what happened there. When I gave her up, I was 17. I was stupid. I wouldn't know how to find her now, even if I wanted to. It was a closed adoption. And since then, I have had another daughter. But I fucked that up too in my addiction. Fifth night of anything $10 or less. And it got so bad they told me I had to quit if I wanted to keep my job. And then as it goes, to keep being able to drink, I quit my job. My daughter Jamie was out of the house by then, so it was easier for me to fall completely apart. Insert endless succession of drinking horror stories here. Today, I'm trying to make my way back. My daughter died. Left her 3 sons behind, but I left them too. I'm trying to make my way back, but like I said, 11 days. It's that you get stuck, and the more you get stuck, the more stuck you get. Jackie coughed and cleared her throat, then went silent. She looked up at Harvey, at the others in the group, but their heads were all down. She didn't want to end on that kind of note, but she didn't feel like going on. I don't know, she said. I guess I'm done. The circle was silent. Harvey cleared his throat. Thank you, Harvey said. He gestured for the next guy to speak. He was an old guy, Navajo, Jackie guessed. He took his hat off, like you see some Indian men do when they pray. It all changed for me in a meeting, he said. Not one of these. These have been what's made all the difference since. I'd been drinking and drugging for most of my adult life, off and on, started a few different families up, let them fall by the wayside to my addictions. And then a brother of mine put up a meeting for me, Native American church. Jackie stopped listening. She thought it would help to say what she said about Harvey in front of him. But looking at him, listening to people's stories, she'd figured he'd probably had a hard time. Jackie remembered the way he'd talked about his dad on the island, how he hadn't even seen his dad since they got on the island. Then, thinking about the island, Jackie remembered seeing Harvey the day they left. She'd just gotten on the boat, and she saw him in the water. Hardly anyone ever got in that water. It was freezing, and everyone had been convinced shark-infested. Then Jackie saw Harvey's little brother, Rocky, running down the hill, yelling Harvey's name. The boat started up. Everyone had sat down, but Jackie was standing. Jackie's mom put her hand on Jackie's shoulder. She must have thought Jackie was sad, because she let her stay standing for a few minutes. Harvey wasn't swimming. He seemed to be hiding in the water. And then he was yelling for his brother. Rocky heard him, and he jumped in with all his clothes on. The boat started to move. Okay, we're going to sit down now, Jackie, Vicky said. Jackie sat down, but kept looking. She saw the boy's dad stumble down the hill. He had something in his hand, a stick or a bat. Everything got smaller and smaller as they made their way slowly across the bay. We all been through a lot we don't understand, in a world made to either break us or make us do so hard we can't break even when it's what we need most to do. It was Harvey talking. Jackie realized she hadn't been listening. Getting fucked up seems like the only thing left to do, Harvey went on. It's not the alcohol. There's not some special relationship between Indians and alcohol. It's just what's cheap, available, legal. It's what we have to go to when it seems like we have nothing else left. I did it too, for a long time. But I stopped telling the story I'd been telling myself about how that was the only way, because of how hard I had it and how hard I was. That story about self-medicating against the disease that was my life, my bad lot history. When we see that the story is the way we live our lives, only then can we start to change, a day at a time. We try to help people like us, try to make the world around us a little better. And then it's then that the story begins. I want to say here that I'm sorry for who I was. Harvey looked up at Jackie, who turned away from his gaze. I get that shame, too. The kind that's made of more years than you know you have left to live. That shame that makes you want to say fuck it and just go back to drinking as a means to an end. I'm sorry to all the people I hurt. All that time I was too fucked up to see what I was doing. There's no excuse. Apologies don't even mean as much as just acknowledging that you fucked up, hurt people, and that you don't want to do that anymore. Not to yourself either. That's sometimes the hardest part. So, let's close out tonight like we always do. But let's be sure to listen to the prayer and say it like we mean it. God, grant me the serenity. They were all saying it in unison. Jackie wasn't going to at first, but suddenly found that she was saying it with them. And wisdom to know the difference, she finished. The room cleared out. Everyone but the two of them, Jackie and Harvey. Jackie sat with her hands in a pile on her lap. She couldn't move. Long time, Harvey said. Yeah. You know, I'm going back to Oakland this summer, in a couple months, actually, for the powwow, but also, is this supposed to go like we're normal, fine, like old friends? Did you not stay to talk? I don't know why I stayed yet. I know you said what we did, what I did on Alcatraz, how you put her up for adoption. I'm sorry for all that. I couldn't have known. I just found out that I have a son, too. He got a hold of me through Facebook. He lives in... What are you talking about? Jackie said, then stood up to leave. Can we start over? I don't give a shit about your son, or your life. Is there any way to find out? Find out what? Our daughter. Don't call her that. She might want to know. It'll be better for everyone if she doesn't. What about your grandsons? Don't. We don't have to keep doing this, Harvey said, and took off his hat. He was bald on top. He stood up and put his hat on his chair. What are you going to say to him? Jackie said. About what? About where you been. I don't know. Listen, Jackie, I think you should think about coming back with me to Oakland. We don't even know each other. It's a free ride. We'll drive all day and then through the night till we get there. You got all the answers then. I want to do something to help. There's no way to take back what I done to you, but I gotta try. How long you been sober? Jackie said. Since 1982. Well, shit. Those boys need their grandma. I don't know. And you sure as hell don't know a goddamn thing about my life. We might be able to find her. No. There are ways of... God, shut the fuck up. Stop acting like you know me. Like we even have anything to say to each other. Like we wanted to find each other. Like we didn't just... Jackie stopped herself, then stood up and walked out of the room. Harvey caught up with her at the elevator. Jackie, I'm sorry. Please, he said. Please what? I'm going now, she said, and pushed the already lit call button. You don't want to be sorry about this later, Harvey said. You don't want to keep going that same way you've been going. You can't really think you're gonna be the one who finally turns it all around for me. I would fucking kill myself if you were the one to finally help. Do you understand that? The elevator came, and Jackie got on. There's gotta be a reason for all this, that we would meet like this, Harvey said, holding the elevator by putting his arm across the threshold. The reason is we're both fuck-ups, and the Indian world is small. Don't come with me then, that's fine. Don't even listen to me, but you said it in the circle. You know what you want. You said it. You want to go back." "Okay," Jackie said. "Okay," Harvey said. "Okay, you'll come back?" "I'll think about it," she said. Harvey let go of the elevator doors. Back in her room, Jackie lay down on the bed. She put a pillow over her face. Then, without even thinking about it, she got up and went to the mini fridge. She opened it. It was full of shots, beer, little bottles of wine. At first, this made her happy. The idea of feeling good and comfortable, safe, and all the first 6 could do, and then the inevitable home stretch to 12, 16, because the web stuck to you everywhere you reached once you were trapped, once you started. Jackie closed the fridge, then reached behind it and unplugged it. She slid the fridge out from under the TV, then using all of her strength, she walked the thing to the door. The bottles clanged as if in protest. Slowly, corner to corner, she made her way. She left the mini fridge outside in the hallway, then came back in and called the front desk to tell them to come get it. She was sweating. She still wanted to drink. There was still time before they'd be up to get it. She needed to leave. She put on her swimsuit. Jackie stepped around the mini fridge, walked down the hall, realized she forgot her cigarettes, then turned around and went back for them. When she came back out of her room, the fridge caught her shin. "Fuck," she said, looking down at the fridge. "You." She looked to see if anyone was coming, then opened the fridge and pulled out a bottle. Then another. She rolled 6 of them into her towel. Then 10. In the elevator, she held the bundle of bottles with both arms. She walked back to the empty pool, climbed in, and stayed under until it hurt. Every time she came up, she checked on the towel bundle. There's an ache when you keep yourself from breathing, a relief when you come up for air. It was the same when you drank after telling yourself you wouldn't. Both broke at a point. Both gave and took. Jackie went under and swam back and forth, taking breaths when she needed them. She thought about her grandsons, that picture of them with Opal's face, her eyes saying to Jackie, "Come get them." Jackie got out of the pool and went to the towel. She heaved the bundle back, then threw it high into the air, into the water. She watched the white towel slowly float down to the water, then lay flat. She watched the bottles sink to the bottom. She turned around, went out the gate, and back up to her room. The text she sent to Opal was just this: "If I come to Oakland, can I stay?" And that is the end of Jackie's chapter there. Just going to do a little bit more, and then we'll call it a night. All right, we are on to a chapter from Orville Redfeather. Let's go to our cast of characters. He is 14 years old, one of Jackie's grandsons, Cheyenne, is deeply interested in his heritage and plans to dance at the powwow. All right. Page 118, Orville Redfeather. Orville stands in front of Opal's bedroom mirror with his regalia on all wrong. It isn't backwards, and actually he doesn't know what he did wrong, but it's off. He moves in front of the mirror, and his feathers shake. He catches the hesitation, the worry in his eyes there in the mirror. He worries suddenly that Opal might come into her room, where Orville is doing what? There would be too much to explain. He wonders what she would do if she caught him. Ever since they were in her care, Opal had been openly against any of them doing anything Indian. She treated it all like it was something they could decide for themselves when they were old enough, like drinking or driving or smoking or voting. Indianing. "Too many risks," she'd said, "especially around powwows. Boys like you, no." Orville couldn't fathom what she'd meant by risks. He'd found the regalia by accident in her closet many years ago while searching for Christmas presents. He'd asked her why she didn't teach them anything about being Indian. Cheyenne way, we let you learn for yourself, then teach you when you're ready. That doesn't make any sense, Orville had said. If we learn for ourselves, we don't need to be taught. It's 'cause you're always working. He saw his grandma's head turn from the pot she was stirring. He quickly pulled out a chair and sat down. Don't make me say it, Orville, she said. I get so tired of hearing myself say it. You know how much I work, how late I come home. I go my route, and the mail doesn't stop coming just like the bills don't. Your phones, the internet, electricity, food, there's rent and clothes and bus and train money. Listen, baby, it makes me happy you want to know, but learning about your heritage is a privilege. A privilege we don't have. And anyway, anything you hear from me about your heritage does not make you more or less Indian, more or less a real Indian. Don't ever let anyone tell you what being Indian means. Too many of us died to get just a little bit of us here. Right now, right in this kitchen. You, me, every part of our people that made it is precious. You're Indian because you're Indian because you're Indian, she said, ending the conversation by turning back around to stir. So, if we had more money, if you didn't have to work so much, things would be different, Orville said. You didn't hear a thing I said to you, did you? She said. Opal Viola Victoria Bearshield. A big old name for a big old lady. She's not technically their grandma. Indian way, she is. That's what she told them when she explained why she was a Bearshield and they were Redfeathers. She is actually their great aunt. Their real grandma, Jackie Redfeather, lives in New Mexico. Opal is Jackie's half-sister, but they grew up together with the same mom. Jackie's daughter, Jamie, is the boys' mom, but all Jamie ever did was push them out. Didn't even quit using when they were in her. The three of them had all begun life in withdrawal. Heroin babies. Jamie shot herself between the eyes when Orville was 6, his brothers 4 and 2. Opal officially adopted them after their mom died, but she'd had them plenty before that. Orville has only a handful of memories of his mom. He'd overheard these details when his grandma was talking to a friend on the kitchen phone late one night. Tell us something about her, Orville would say whenever he got the chance, moments when Opal was in a good mood and it seemed like she'd answer. She's how you all got those lousy spellings of your names, Opal told the boys over dinner one night after Loney told them the kids were calling him Loney the Pony at school. Nobody says it right, Loney says. She did that? Orville said. Of course she did. Who else? Not that she was stupid. She knew how to spell. She just wanted you all to be different. I don't blame her. Our names should look different. She was fucking stupid, Luther said. That shit's weak. He stood up, pushed his chair back, and walked out of the room. He'd always complained the most about the spelling of his name, even though people still pronounced it right. No one had ever even noticed that Orville was supposed to be spelled Orville with L-L-E, with that useless extra L and E. As for Loney, it was only because Opal knew their mom, knew how she said it, that anyone, anywhere, knew it wasn't supposed to be Loney as in pony. Lonnie? Maybe it's Lonnie. And Luther is spelled L-O-O-T-H-E-R for reference. Orville manages to get the regalia on and steps in front of the full-length mirror on Opal's closet door. Mirrors have always been a problem for him. The word stupid often sounds in his head when he looks at himself in the mirror. He doesn't know why, but it seems important and true. The regalia is itchy and faded in color. It's way too small. He doesn't look the way he hoped he would. He doesn't know what he expected to find. Being Indian didn't fit either. And virtually everything Orville learned about being Indian, he'd learned virtually. From watching hours and hours of powwow footage, documentaries on YouTube, by reading all that there was to read on sites like Wikipedia, powwows.com, and Indian Country Today, Googling stuff like, what does it mean to be a real Indian? Which led him several clicks through some pretty fucked up judgmental forums, and finally to an urbandictionary.com word he'd never heard before. Pretendian. Orville knew he wanted to dance the first time he saw a dancer on TV. He was 12. It was November, so it was easy to find Indians on TV. Everyone else had gone to bed. He was flipping through channels when he found him. There on the screen, in full regalia, the dancer moved like gravity meant something different for him. It was like breakdancing in a way, Orville thought, but both new, even cool, and ancient seeming. There was so much he'd missed, hadn't been given, hadn't been told. In that moment, in front of the TV, he knew. He was part of something. Something you could dance to. And so what Orville is, according to himself, standing in front of the mirror with his too small for him stolen regalia, is dressed up like an Indian. In hides and ties, ribbons and feathers, bone breastplate and hunched shoulders, he stands, weak in the knees, a fake, a copy, a boy playing dress-up. And yet, there's something there, behind that stupid glazed-over stare, the one he so often gives his brothers, that critical, cruel look behind that he can almost see it, which is why he keeps looking, keeps standing in front of the mirror. He's waiting for something true to appear before him, about him. It's important that he dress like an Indian, dance like an Indian, even if it is an act, even if he feels like a fraud the whole time, because the only way to be Indian in this world is to look and act like an Indian. To be or not be Indian depends on it. And that is where we will stop for today at the page break in Orville Redfeather's chapter on page 122. Thank you for joining me for this section. I hope that you enjoyed. We will be continuing on. Hopefully over the weekend I will get you an extra section because I want to finish this up in 9 sections, thus having it done before I leave for the US. Hope you enjoyed. There, by Tommy Orange. I will see you next time. Bye.